In the dawning years of the 20th century, an era brimming with industrial achievements and technological marvels, a dream was born. It was the dream to create the largest, most luxurious ocean liner the world had ever known, the RMS Titanic. Our tale begins at the renowned Harland and Wolff shipyards in Belfast, Northern Ireland, where the keel of what was to become the pinnacle of shipbuilding was laid in 1909. This dream was not merely an ambition to surpass existing engineering feats. It was a statement of mankind's mastery over nature and a beacon of progress. The Titanic, with its labyrinthine corridors and palatial staterooms, was to be the floating embodiment of an era. Opulence was its signature, with amenities that rivaled the grandest hotels of the time. Turkish baths, a Parisian café, and an opulent grand staircase that still captivates our imaginations more than a century later. In the heart of the ship lay her engines, technological marvels that would propel her across the Atlantic. Sporting two colossal reciprocating engines flanking a central turbine, the Titanic could unleash a staggering 46,000 horsepower, pushing her streamlined hull through the ocean at speeds up to 24 knots. Her watertight compartments and automated watertight doors were billed as the latest safety features that rendered her unsinkable, a term that would famously tempt fate. The aim was to eclipse the competition, particularly the Cunard Line, with its famed speedsters, Lusitania and Mauretania. Titanic's owners, the White Star Line, instead focused on unmatched luxury. They insisted upon the finest wood paneling, sumptuous furnishings, and an attention to detail that was without equal. It was more than a ship, it was a statement of exceptional human achievement. Amidst the clang of steel and the roar of furnaces, thousands of shipbuilders labored, transforming 46,328 gross tons of metal into a vessel of dreams. Completed in 1912, after 3 years of construction, the Titanic was ready to claim her title as the Queen of the Ocean. Her illustrious launch was a spectacle beheld by an eager world, marking a new chapter in maritime history. Yet unbeknownst to the throngs of admirers, this dream, this marvel of human ingenuity, would soon become a legend marked by tragedy. The year is 1912, an era marked by industrial advancements and global aspirations. Aboard the Titanic, there's a palpable buzz of anticipation as passengers from all walks of life converge to witness maritime history in the making. The affluent mingles with the emigrants, each carrying dreams as vast as the Atlantic itself. April 10th dawns with the kind of excitement that writes itself into the pages of history. As the ship prepares to depart from Southampton, families wave tearful goodbyes, while onlookers marvel at the sheer scale of the White Star Line's crowning glory. It isn't just a vessel, it's the embodiment of human achievement, prepared to slash across the ocean toward the new world. Picture the scene: well-heeled gentlemen in their finest attire, women in elegant dresses, children's eyes alight with wonder. Here, aboard this floating palace, is a cross-section of society itself, from third-class dreamers to first-class magnates like John Jacob Astor IV. The Titanic promises not just a voyage, but a transformation of life's canvas. Travel, in the year of our Lord 1912, is more than movement. It is the heralding of progress and possibility. These oceanic voyages signify a shrinking world where distances dwindle in the face of human ingenuity. Yet, for all this technological triumph, there's a prevailing sense of human vulnerability, a poignant subtext to the grand narrative of the ship they call Unsinkable. And so, as the Titanic leaves its berth, its chimneys bellowing smoke and its passengers awash with hope, we too cast off from the safety of the shore. We journey forth with those souls, embarking on the Titanic's maiden and final voyage, a chapter in our collective memory that remains rich with significance and sobering reflection. As evening fell on April 14, 1912, the RMS Titanic sailed through the icy waters of the North Atlantic. The air was crisp, filled with the promise of a tranquil night, but the sea held a silent threat, lurking beneath the deceptive calm. The ship, embarking on her maiden voyage, was about to enter a chapter of history marked by a catastrophic misadventure. With Captain Edward J. Smith in command, The Titanic steamed full speed ahead, despite prior iceberg warnings relayed to the bridge. The pride of technological advancement and societal confidence in the vessel's structural invincibility eclipsed the caution required in such treacherous environments. As the minutes ticked by, an air of normalcy prevailed, with passengers retiring to their cabins and the crew standing watch, unaware that each knot forward was pulling them closer toward calamity. At 11:40 p.m., the lookouts, despite their diligence, were blindsided by the ghostly silhouette of an iceberg dead ahead. A desperate call to the bridge and a flurry of commands to turn the ship came, but it was agonizingly late. The enormity of the Titanic, coupled with its velocity, rendered the efforts insufficient. The starboard side scraped against the ice, a fatal blow masked by the quiet strength of a frozen monolith. Below decks, the collision seemed a mere shudder to some, while others never felt the impact. It was this subtle warning that likely led to the delayed reaction amongst passengers and crew. Confusion rippled through the corridors as the severity of the situation was not immediately apparent. It would take precious minutes for the crew to realize the extent of the damage and hours for the reality of their predicament to fully dawn on the 2,223 souls on board. In those first moments after impact, while the crew scurried to assess the situation, a deceptive calm persisted amidst the passengers. This calm would soon give way as the gravity of their dire circumstances emerged. The Titanic, once deemed unsinkable, was found wanting against nature's might, and her supposed invincibility would crumble beneath the waves, leaving a string of personal sagas and a changed world in her wake. As the Titanic sailed through the frigid waters of the North Atlantic, the night of April 14, 1912, would unfold into chaos that tested the very limits of human courage and resolve. At 11:40 p.m., the ship struck an iceberg. The unsinkable vessel had met its nemesis, and a desperate struggle for survival began. Initially, the gravity of the situation eluded many. The crew, however, sprang into action, attempting to assess the damage. Captain Edward Smith, alongside Thomas Andrews, the ship's designer, soon understood the dire consequences of the collision. Orders were given to uncover the lifeboats, an operation mired in frantic urgency as the ship's distress signals pierced the night sky. The launching of the lifeboats should have been methodical, yet it was anything but. As women and children were loaded first, lifeboat after lifeboat was released into the Atlantic, some tragically underfilled due to a combination of miscommunication, class disparity, and sheer disbelief of the fate that awaited the Titanic. A critical moment of decision came when Ida Strauss, offered a seat on account of her age and stature, chose instead to remain with her beloved husband Isidore, saying, "We have lived together for many years. Where you go, I go." Their story is just one of many, where love eclipsed the instinct for self-preservation. Amidst the turmoil, anecdotes of courage emerged. The ship's band continued to play, their music serving as a haunting soundtrack to the night's events, aiming to calm passengers as the reality set in. Meanwhile, figures like Molly Brown added to the legacy of the night. Having secured a place on lifeboat number 6, she urged the crew to return to the wreckage to rescue more survivors, embodying the resilience and valor often seen in times of disaster. The chaos was punctuated by acts of sacrifice. Members of the crew labored to keep the ship afloat as long as possible, and many perished in the engine rooms, their efforts buying precious minutes for others to escape. As the Titanic vanished beneath the waves, those in the lifeboats could only look on in harrowing silence. These final acts indelibly marked the essence of bravery and human vulnerability, qualities that would echo through history long after the frigid waters claimed the unsinkable ship and those who sailed with her. As the stillness of the night settled over the icy waters of the North Atlantic, the unspeakable had occurred. The RMS Titanic, once a marvel of maritime engineering, lay at the bottom of the ocean. The cries in the cold air ceased, leaving an eerie silence in their wake, a chilling testament to the disaster that had unfolded. As the Carpathia plowed through the darkness towards the survivors, a tense atmosphere of hope and despair enveloped those awaiting rescue. It was in those early morning hours of April 15, 1912, that the Carpathia arrived, piercing the darkness with her lights and casting a lifeline to the frozen survivors. Lifeboats, scattered across the Black Sea, were slowly gathered in an immense effort driven by both urgency and compassion. While the Carpathia could not erase the horror, her crew worked tirelessly, providing warmth, comfort, and a passage to safety for the 705 souls she carried to New York. The news of the Titanic's demise struck the world like a hammer blow. Families and friends, desperate for any shred of information, congregated at White Star Line offices, their hearts heavy with anxiety. This collective grief was punctuated by the frenzied activity of journalists and reporters who, with each passing hour, sought to understand the events that led to such a catastrophe. Headlines screamed from papers, and telegraph offices were swamped with inquiries, a media frenzy that had gripped the world's attention. In the months following the disaster, two official inquiries unfolded. The United States Senate conducted the first, beginning on April 19th, just a day after the Carpathia's arrival, with Senator William Alden Smith leading the charge for answers. Britain's own inquiry followed, led by Lord Mersey. Both sought to peel back the layers of negligence and missed opportunities that had paved the way for tragedy. They revealed a startling lack of lifeboats, a disregard for iceberg warnings, and a ship traveling far too fast for the icy conditions. Multiple factors, each contributing to a culmination of human error and natural forces that rendered the Titanic a victim of the frozen deep. These inquiries eventually led to changes in maritime safety regulations, mandating sufficient lifeboats for all passengers, 24-hour radio communications, and the establishment of the International Ice Patrol. Yet, for the families of the 1,500 souls lost, no amount of regulation could compensate for the gaping absence their loved ones left behind. The sinking of the Titanic was more than a maritime disaster. It was a human tragedy, etched into the annals of history, leaving behind legacies of sorrow, resilience, and an enduring lesson in the fallibility of human pride. The sinking of the Titanic back on April 15, 1912, not only etched the ship's name into history, but also ushered in an era of significant changes in maritime laws and safety practices. In the wake of the disaster, the international community took decisive action, acknowledging that the catastrophe highlighted serious flaws in maritime regulations. In 1914, 2 years after the sinking, the first International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, commonly known as SOLAS, was convened. This treaty was pivotal, as it established new, stringent requirements designed to enhance the safety of passengers and crew aboard ships. One of the most crucial outcomes was the mandate for sufficient lifeboats for all on board. The harrowing image of half-empty lifeboats amidst the disaster made this a focus point for change. Furthermore, continuous 24-hour radio watches became compulsory, ensuring that distress calls would be heard and immediate help dispatched, a direct response to the silent cries for help on that frigid night the Titanic went down. The Titanic's legacy also significantly influenced ship design and emergency protocols. The ship's watertight compartments, which were believed to render her unsinkable, were revealed to be woefully inadequate, leading to the design of ships with improved hull integrity and better subdivision. Evacuation procedures were reformed. Emergency drills became routine. The need for procedural rigor became clearly etched in the minds of those designing and operating these new leviathans of the sea. Beyond the technical and regulatory realm, the Titanic left an indelible mark on the cultural and historical tapestry of the modern age. Through countless retellings in literature, film, and art, the Titanic persists as a symbol of human ambition and its limits. Its story, interwoven with themes of class, innovation, and tragedy, continues to captivate and resonate with audiences, inviting introspection on the human condition under the umbrella of progress. As we reflect on the Titanic, its passengers, and its crew, we are reminded of both our vulnerabilities and our capacity for resilience. The reverberations of that night echo through time, reminding each new generation to learn from the past, to respect the forces of nature, and to persist in the quest for safer passage through the uncharted waters that lie ahead. Amid the immense tragedy that beset the RMS Titanic, there are tales that echo through the corridors of time, stories of the individuals who experienced the unthinkable. As we delve into these personal accounts, let's remember the lives touched by the disaster on that fateful night in April 1912. One poignant story is that of Isidore and Ida Strauss, proprietors of Macy's department store, a couple not just joined by matrimony but by a deep love for one another, evidenced when faced with life or death. As women and children were given priority on the lifeboats, Ida refused to leave her husband's side, reportedly saying, "Where you go, I go." Their devotion to each other was a testament to love's unwavering strength, even as the ship succumbed to the icy waters. Then, there's the tale of 17-year-old Jack Thayer, who survived the sinking by a twist of fate. Separated from his parents in the commotion, Jack found himself leaping into the ocean as the Titanic began its final plunge. Hours later, he would miraculously reunite with his mother on board the RMS Carpathia, although his father, John B. Thayer, sadly perished. Jack went on to document his experience in vivid detail, offering us a window into the harrowing ordeal of that night. The Titanic was a microcosm of human society, from the most affluent passengers to the hopeful immigrants in third class dreaming of a new life in America. Among them were the Goodwin family, who were moving to the United States from England. The entire family of 8 lost their lives, leaving a narrative of loss and what could have been, reflecting the countless dreams that sank with the ship. Let us also reflect on the musicians, led by bandleader Wallace Hartley, who famously continued to play even as the ship met its demise. The calm tones of their music amidst chaos and despair became a symbol of grace and courage. Hartley and his bandmates ultimately went down with the ship, their final number, popularly believed to be "Nearer, My God, to Thee," offering solace to many as they faced the uncertainty of their own fates. Concluding this portrait of human endurance and emotion amidst catastrophe are the stories of survival that inspire us. One such account is that of Elizabeth Schutz, a governess to the wealthy Graham family. Her vivid descriptions of the night's events, from the shock of the collision to the bitter coldness of the air as she waited aboard a lifeboat, provide a visceral reminder of the disaster's very human toll. Elizabeth survived, but forever carried the memories of that night. Through these accounts, the Titanic's legacy endures, not just as a marvel of engineering or a mishap of nautical history, but as a collection of human stories. Each narrative reminds us of that night's monumental impact on every soul aboard, the deep losses felt, and the unyielding spirit of those who survived. The Titanic's story is ultimately one of humanity, in all its fragility and fortitude. Even now, long after the Titanic succumbed to the icy waters of the North Atlantic, its story resonates in our collective conscience. It's a tale that's been retold through countless lenses, from that of haunting documentaries to the grand spectacles of Hollywood. One cannot think of the Titanic without recalling the poignant images from James Cameron's 1997 blockbuster film. With its sweeping romance and tragic ending, it not only captured hearts worldwide, but also sparked renewed interest in Titanic's history and the many real-life stories aboard the ship. But the movies are just the beginning. There are numerous books, from historical accounts to fictional narratives inspired by the events of April 1912, expanding our understanding of those moments through intimate character portrayals. The fascination goes beyond storytelling. Modern technology has allowed us to reach into the depths where the Titanic now lies. The first successful expedition, led by oceanographer Robert Ballard in 1985, was a milestone event, bringing us haunting images of the wreck. Since then, submersible craft have visited the site many times, each visit shedding light on the ship's decaying grandeur and bringing artifacts to the surface, each a silent witness to history. These underwater explorations captivate millions, satisfying our yearning to unravel mysteries that have lingered for over a century. And with each retelling, each dive, each artifact, the Titanic imparts lessons, the unmistakable truth that human ingenuity has limits, the importance of respecting nature's might, and the need for humility in all our endeavors. Though more than 100 years have passed since the Titanic's fateful voyage, it still has much to teach us about bravery, hubris, and the enduring spirit of mankind. Thank you for diving deep into history with us on the Daily History Podcast. If the story of the Titanic has moved you or sparked your curiosity, please consider subscribing for more tales that shaped our world. We'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions for future episodes. Drop a comment below, and the topic with the most likes will receive our special focus. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep the legacy alive.